Welcome everybody. Today's video is on Islamic and Asian contributions to the Renaissance. Hopefully you learned about some of this.
So let's first talk about what standards this video will cover. The biggest one it covers is standard 3 for our unit, which is explaining how innovations from Asian and Islamic civilizations, as well as from ancient Greek and Roman culture, laid the foundation for the Renaissance. Now, we already went over the Greek and Roman area quite a few times in our unit already. So this is going to focus on the Asian and Islamic part, and to know that it wasn't just a rebirth of ancient Greek and Roman culture, that there were other parts of the world it was influenced by as well. So as we look at this topic, let's look at this timeline here. Some of our classes went over this timeline. So it's important to understand that first you have ancient Greece and Rome, then you have the Middle Ages / Dark Ages / medieval times, and then you have the Renaissance, and the Renaissance was a throwback, right? It was a rebirth, and it was a rebirth of things and learning that could be attributed to ancient Greece and ancient Rome. Now, between Rome and Greece, that whole era ending, say around 476 AD, and the Renaissance beginning, historians will disagree, say 1300s, say early 1400s. You have about 1,000 years in between. Now, some historians say we also exaggerate too much how dark were the Middle Ages, because there still was progress going on in different ways. But still, you can't really compare it to what was going on when Rome went kaput. So if the Middle Ages didn't happen and Rome and Western society kept progressing, would right now be like what it will be living 1,000 years from now? So there's an argument, and there's a case for that. However, it's important for us to understand that that case is sort of ethnocentric, because it relies a lot on just Western civilization, right? It really centers around progress in Europe. But during the Middle Ages, there were other parts of the world that were progressing. For example, this was the time of the Islamic Golden Age. That didn't start right when Rome fell, but you figure about the 700s to the time of the Renaissance. This was the golden age of learning for Islamic kingdoms, both to the south and to the east of the Italian city-states. And we're going to see in this video and in our lesson how there was advancements in mathematics and astronomy, different sciences, even in arts. And the Renaissance can't just be attributed to what, looking back at ancient Greece and Rome. It has to also respect that a lot of the advancements came from the Asian kingdoms and also the Islamic kingdoms. And actually, the Islamic kingdoms, a lot of their knowledge, it's because they were translating the works of the ancient Greeks, which Europe wasn't doing at that time. So some of the Islamic kingdoms were sort of taking up right where Greece and Rome left off and continuing to study the works of Aristotle and things like that. So you really can't just ignore the contributions made in other parts of the world at this time. And back in middle school, you probably also learned about the Silk Road, about the spices and the gunpowder and the sugar and all sorts of things that were making its way from the east out west. And as goods traveled across to get to, say, the Mediterranean and then to Europe, you have to realize that goods didn't travel by themselves. People traveled with them, and their ideas came with them as well. Some of the contributions that came from the Islamic kingdoms were, as I just mentioned, that they translated some of the Greek classics, astronomy, mathematics, algebra, one of your favorites, I'm sure, science, medicine, and they even helped Europe develop some of their instruments. A lot of the early violins, guitars, and instruments like that can be attributed to earlier versions from the Muslim kingdoms. So we're here at the McDonald's on a Friday night, and we're going to show the students how even some of the words that we speak every day originated from Arabic, from this time period when, during the Middle Ages, they started getting a lot of influence from these Islamic kingdoms. So did you know that the word algebra came from there? Look, do you see there? Well, algebra is a type of math. But see, it comes from the Arabic word jabara, to reunite or restore. Yep, candy comes from
Islamic,
Candy.
an Arabic
Candy.
word. So does sugar and coffee and cotton and many other words that we use every day.
Sugar, candy, coffee, cotton.
So that's another way. That's another way.
It's just.
Yes.
So right here, I just want to share this map with you real quickly to understand that geography makes a difference with this as well. So if you look to the southern part of the map, you see what's identified as Muslim dominions, which is and now what's considered Spain and Portugal, which was various different kingdoms then. And also where you see a little to the right, and the kingdom of the two Sicilies. So some of these Islamic kingdoms were not just from the east, but were in North Africa, which is right below, right to the south of the Iberian Peninsula, of the Italian boot, right? So those areas were closer. So therefore, the influence of the Islamic kingdoms was greater in those areas than, say, the northern Italian city-states or the French kingdoms. So not only was the transfer of knowledge with Islamic kingdoms greater, but so was the goods they traded. But you also see this influence in architecture and even in the artwork. So I included here a picture of just various mosaic tiles that were common in Islamic kingdoms, but then you start seeing in the southern area, what is Spain now, and what they labeled here is the kingdom of the two Sicilies, right? Because as people move, ideas move, but the culture moves with them, and you see that reflected in things like architecture and artwork. So just realize that some areas, based on location, felt that influence greater than other areas did. That's all for now. See you in class.
It's only because.
Oh, we can't present this. Why not? Hold on, what are you doing?
Can I please go get my hot chocolate? Mom,
You still won't go into present mode.
Hey, Mama, guess what? Probably
I just want to finish this before we go.
Mama, guess what?
What?
I got to hold a guinea pig at school.
Guinea pig?
Give me your keys. I'm just gonna drive off.
Well, all right. You take my keys. You drive the car. You play with the guinea pig, and I'll spend all weekend making this video in the McDonald's by myself.
McDonald's, stop.